All right, let's hit the NFL. For the fourth straight season, the Broncos not playing on Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. Instead, they've turned their attention to the offseason and finding a new GM. Denver insider Troy Renck joined me earlier today to break down what's going on in the Mile High City.
Hey guys, joined by Denver insider Troy Renck. And Troy, it's the first week of the NFL playoffs, and of course the Broncos not playing in it once again this year. So we now start looking at 2021. And this week, a big week up in Denver, we're finding out that John Elway is going to be stepping down as general manager for the Broncos, which turned into this massive search now for a new Broncos GM. If you're Broncos country, who are some of the names that you guys should be familiar with going forward?
Yeah, I'd say the slight favorite right now, George Paton from Minnesota, has been their assistant GM essentially for 14 years. Turned down the Browns job last year. He's certainly ready for the next step. Can they lure him with enough money and enough authority to get him? And then I would say it would be Champ Kelly from the Bears. He worked for the Broncos from 2007 to 2014. And then Terry Fontenot, who's interviewed well with the Falcons, interviewed well with the Broncos, a personnel guy for the Saints. And their in-house candidate is Brian Stark. He is a rising star, but the optics of staying in would be difficult when you're preaching that you want a fresh set of eyes.
This new GM going to be getting a new roster, a new young roster. A lot of questions going on with, okay, is Drew Lock the main guy? Is Justin Simmons a guy that we pay long term? What are some of the things that, are being discussed, especially in these interviews?
Yeah, I mean, you got to know the philosophy, and this person has to work well with Vic Fangio, which for me is backward. Fangio hasn't been over 500 one day in 2 years, but they have to add 4 to 5 dynamic players. And Drew Lock's the main question. I think they will bring in competition. They're going to say we like him, but we got to protect ourselves with a veteran like an Andy Dalton, Gardner Minshew, Jacoby Brissett. The big decision, too, on Von Miller, John Elway will be involved in that. They want him to retire here, but it's no guarantee he returns. And you look at Justin Simmons. They've dragged their feet on this for a year. He would be a priority number one for me, but if they decide he doesn't deserve to set the market, then it could be tricky because it doesn't seem like Justin's real interested in playing on the franchise tag again.
Okay, so Troy, big question for you is this. Who's your front runner? Who's the guy that you think can bring the ship back in the right direction and bring the Broncos back to the playoffs?
Yeah, it is so complicated because Elway and Joe Ellis will likely be gone in March of next year, and they could have a new owner at that time, or at least the team could be up for sale. So there's so many moving pieces here. That's why you would say on the surface, Jake, George Paton would be better because of his experience, that maybe he could make it happen quickly. The other guys haven't done the GM role or the assistant GM role, as long as he has. But whomever it is, they've got to find 4 or 5 dynamic players, 2 corners, a coverage linebacker, add a lineman, might be at right tackle. And because you just can't have hope as a strategy that, well, if we're healthy, we'll be fine. If we have a normal offseason, we'll be fine. I don't think a new GM will buy into that. The Broncos have preached that, but every team will get a new offseason. Every team will be healthier. Like that, that's the baseline. Peyton would get a slight edge, but Champ Kelly is the one that ex-players talk to me about the most. They love his competitiveness and his eye for talent.
Denver insider Troy Renck plugged in once again with the Broncos. Troy, thanks for joining us.